Hi there, it's David Young, the Resourceful Coach, and what we're going to talk about today is your putting and how you can become more successful on the putting greens and get those scores a lot lower when you go out and play. We're going to look at a little bit about sort of the three key things you need to do when you're putting. So we're going to work a little bit on your technique, understand and create some drills to help you to do that, and then realize what would be a good result at the end of a round of golf, how well you've putted on that day. So it's a little bit of technique, a little bit of my data, and a little bit of understanding how to read greens. That's what we're going to go through to start with. So part one, what we're looking at is, for me, there are three parts to hitting a good putt. And if I get all three bits correct, the ball will go in the hole. If I get one of those things wrong, the chances are I'm not going to hole that putt. So where do we start? Well, I think the first thing you should be doing when you walk onto a green is you should be reading the putt. So for me, that's always the starting point. I ever work with any of my lessons, I don't look at their physical technique to start with. We look at their ability to read the green. And why that's important is because once you've read the green, you understand the green, it then gives you the next two bits, which is the line and the length of the putt, and you understand how you're doing on that side. So for me, they're the three key bits: reading the green, having the ability to start the ball on the right line, and then number three, am I getting the right speed? And if we get all three things correct, great result. We're going to get that ball in the hole. So let's start with a bit of green reading. And if you want to go and look a little bit more in depth, there's a video out there already on my channel. Go and look at the full green reading video. And we're just going to quickly go through some key things here. But we're going to incorporate a little bit, some drills and some practice. What I would do if I go and work on my putting, what I'm actually going to work on. Okay. So first thing, when you read a green, the biggest thing for me is I always read the hole, or read the putt from the hole back to the ball. And why I do this is because the hole is where the ball's going to be running at its softest speed. It's got less speed, so the hole is going to affect it more. What's happening probably in the last 5 foot of the putt is where it's going to do the most movement. So what I'm looking for, I go up to the hole and I'm looking for the low point. And if you watch any of my videos regarding green reading, we always talk about filling the hole up with water, imagining where that water would run. So that's what I'm doing. I'd physically come here, I'd look at the hole, and I look at that and I think, okay, the water's running down here. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a T-peg about 4 feet from the hole on that line, okay? And that's going to give me a reminder all the time I'm practicing, that's where the ball is going to try and go to. That's where the water would go. Gravity is going to pull it that way. So that's the first thing I'm looking at there, okay? Then the next thing to work on that is looking where we've put our golf balls today. If I took a right angle to that, so I go straight across from here, I'm going to put another T-peg in here, okay? And that physically now is telling me, if we think of a clock face, this is 6 o'clock, so this is the bottom of the face, and that T-peg over there would be 9 o'clock on the clock face. So what I know is anything in this sort of quarter, which is where our balls are today, if I'm below that T-peg over here, it now is me putting slightly uphill. And because I'm to the left of this T-peg, it's got to move left to right, because the low point is to the right of where I'm putting from. So straight away, I'm getting some information. Okay, that's really important. So we're sort of involving two things here. We're going through the sort of the technique of how to read a green. We're also going to incorporate a little bit of my drills, what I'm doing, as if I was going to go and practice my putting. So now what I'm going to work out from here is how much is this putt going to break. So this slope on the green is probably a little bit more than average. Okay, we'd call it a 3% slope. And the way my green method works, that's 4, 5, 6, 7 paces from the hole. We've got 7 paces, roughly each pace is about 2.5 feet. So if you can work out roughly how many paces it takes you to, say, walk 10 feet, in my case that's 4 paces, I'm going to times the slope by the amount of paces. Okay, it'll make a little bit more sense as we go along, but this is going to give me some really good information. So the biggest breaking putt, which would be the 9 o'clock, is going to break 21 inches, 7 times 3. I'm not quite in that position. I'm getting closer to, let's say, we'll putt from this ball here. We're nearer to 8 o'clock. So that makes it a little bit more interesting and understand what we're doing. So if you go and watch that green reading method, there's a chart on it, which will tell you now this is going to break about 3/4 of that, about 75%. Okay, so 75% of 20, we knock about a quarter off. We're now looking at about a 16 inches of break. And we want the ball to go into the middle of the hole. Okay, on this occasion, because it's going to turn that way, the middle of the hole is just slightly on the high side. Okay, because that's the middle where we're going in. So that's an inch off. So I need to be aiming around about 20 inches outside the hole. So here's our third tee peg we're going to put in. A golf hole is roughly, when we look at that, approximately in that position is about 4 inches. Okay, so sorry, let's recap what I've said. So 21 inches, 3/4 of that, we're looking at about 16. So we're looking about 15 inches outside. I think I said 20 there, but we're looking nearer 15. So that's just under 4 hole widths. So I'm going to put my tee peg in the ground there. So all the time I'm practicing my putting now, I've got some really good information. If I putt from this position regularly to work on my technique, I now know from that tee peg is the low point. This tee peg is the 90-degree angle, the 9 o'clock, and that tee peg now is my aim. And because I'm slightly below the 9 o'clock position, this putt must be fractionally uphill. So now I'm getting my other two bits. Okay, I'm getting the line, which is the tee peg left of the hole, around about 15 inches left of the hole. And because I'm below the 9 o'clock, I now know it's slightly uphill. So as you do this more and more, you'll automatically do it. Obviously, I'm explaining it, but this would take me, amazingly, the time I walk to the hole and walk back to my ball, I'll have already worked out the read of the putt. It's that quick once you get used to it. So now I've got to work out, have I read the putt correctly? So now I'm going to hit some putts. We've got 5 balls here. So now I'm going into the drill that I've created, okay? So I've read that green. So the first thing I'm interested in, technique, is can I start the ball on the line of the tee peg to the left of the hole? That's telling me my stroke is encouraging, my setup is encouraging the ball to start in the right direction. So that looks pretty good. Starts to come around to the hole. My weight's pretty decent. And what we've got to realise, from 7 paces, we're talking around about 17, 18 feet. Even as a professional golfer, I'm probably only going to hold this low single figure numbers. I mean, 5%. So if I can hit a putt like that that's ended up about 8 inches behind the hole, I'm happy with that. I'd be saying technically that's really good. I'm doing the right thing. Now, here's what should be the easy bit, but golfers find the hard bit. Do it again, okay? Stand there, do it again. Get into the routine that you're getting a process that consistently does this. Okay, so I'm aiming at that tee peg, only just missed the hole. Okay, I'm going to commit to that line. It's rolling along that line nicely. And you can see now, because I'm trusting the line, the likelihood is I'm going to start making better strokes. I'm going to start having better results. Okay, so this is the key thing that you've got to do. The first part we're looking at is, can you read the green? Can you start the ball on the right line? And then can you get the right pace? And they're your 3 key bits that you're looking for to start with. And then what we're going to do now is develop that with some drills that you can then in time take to the golf course to get some consistency into your putts and understand where you might have strengths and weaknesses, because the difference around that hole is you might find if you're putting from left to right, you might be very good at that, but you may not be quite so good from a right to left putt. Or you might be good uphill, but you're not so good downhill. Okay, and that's okay. That doesn't matter, because what we're doing is we're learning what works for you. And then through the drills that we're creating, you can go and practice them and improve maybe the weaker part, make that better. So the end result is you're more consistent when you get onto the golf course. So when I'm working on my putting, the first drill I'll always do is work on the line of my putt. And what I do, I try to make it as simple as I can. And the reason for that, I just want to work on my technique of my stroke and get the ball rolling on the line that I'd like to do it. And what's interesting, when you work with people on their mind and you improve their mindset when they're playing, if you work on the line of the putt, they seem to improve their putting dramatically, because they start to trust their technique, and then from there they start to get the right speed. Now, when you probably speak to most people regarding putting, they say speed is more important than the line. But I think to actually work on your technique, get a sound technique, you can read the putt, you can now start it on the correct line. It's amazing then how your speed control improves. So I've just got a very simple drill here, okay? This is what I would do. I go to the putting green, and we've found the straight putt, and I just take a tee peg and I put the tee peg at the back of the hole. So that gives me something really small to focus on. And I'm going to be around about 2 to 3 paces, about 2 paces away from the hole. And I use these tailor-made balls, the response balls, which have the line going across the middle. And it's just to show me if I'm getting the ball rolling correctly. So I just line that up with the tee peg. And I'll just come back and check that, make sure that's good. And then all I'm going to do is just hit some putts. And the goal is to see if I can hit the tee peg at the back of the hole. And if I know then I'm doing that, I'm aiming correctly, my putting stroke's pretty sound, I want to get the ball up towards the hole doing that. Okay? And I'll probably do this from this length for approximately, we'll see how we're going. If it's going well, I will do it for probably half a dozen to a dozen balls. Okay, we're going to speed it on a little bit for you from there, and I'll just get that feeling back and through and get the ball rolling. You can see how that stripe is just rolling over the ball nicely. So what I'm learning straight away is my aim's good, my read's good, and I can start the ball on the correct line. And that's all I need to do. I don't need to do it for much more than a 5-foot putt. Gives you the idea. Get the feeling of the stroke, and you can see there we've got 3 in the hole. And what I might do, if I've got a little bit more time, I might just increase the distance. I might go back to 10 feet. But if you think about it logically, it doesn't matter how long that putt is. If it's a straight putt, you've got to start the ball on the right line. And that gives me now the good base to work from. So then what I start to do then, we're going to look at another 2 drills that will start to incorporate a little bit the speed of going uphill and downhill and having a little bit of a slope on the putt. A little bit like when we talked about the green reading, but I now want to start to put these ideas together. So we've done a bit of green reading. I now know I can start the ball on the right line. Can I do it now when maybe I've got a little bit of a longer putt, a bit more break on it? Can I trust that line, trust my stroke, and then start to get the speed correct? If I can do those 3 things as we said, we're going to start holing more putts. So my next 2 drills, what I start to do is start to incorporate a little bit more break into the putt and also uphill and downhill putts. Okay, so what we're going to look at here, a little bit of a downhill right to left putt. Now, the hole hasn't changed. So here's the good news. We know the low point's there. We've just practiced on that with our 5-footers up the hill. And we're now coming across from there. So if that's 6 o'clock, I know we're turning for around about 2 o'clock, which is pretty much a maximum break through my green reading method. So we're looking at a putt about 6 paces. So I now start to putt from about 15 feet because I'm trying to incorporate a little bit more of the speed and the read of the putt, the line. Okay, so we're looking at about 18 inches of break. That's where we put a tee peg out to the side of the hole. So again, all I'm doing every time I'm practicing this, I'm monitoring how I'm doing to make it consistent. I put another tee peg here at 15 feet. So if I'm hitting some putts and I want to go and practice it a lot, I come back to the same position. So then I don't have to reread the putt. So that just makes it easier on that side. So now the focus is on that point out to the right. And now what we're starting to incorporate is the feel, because we're trusting the line, because we've practiced that already. We're now trusting the feel for the fact that we're going downhill, slightly downhill. So we start it out there. That's good. Nice putt. Be very happy with that. Rolled about a foot past. Lovely. So now again, like we said earlier, it's about doing it again. It's about trusting that idea. And the key thing that we said earlier, you may find there's a putt that you don't enjoy quite so much. We're going to come to mine in a minute. Okay. So I'm working on this. Feel that putt. Going down the slope. Very easy. You can see that one run a little bit further past. But again, it felt like a good stroke. Felt like I started on a good line. Quite happy. So what we can see there, because I hit it a little bit harder, it didn't break at the right time. So I would look at that more and think, yeah, the line was still good, but I didn't quite get the speed correct. So that's okay. Still getting the big technical thing for me right. And that's personally for me. I'm getting that line correct. Now from there, see if we can control that speed nicely back and through. Start it out there, drop down. So again, similar to the last putt. So if I was practicing on my own, okay, and I'm working on that, I know I'm doing this video to try and go through the idea, I'd go back and do those 3 again. First putt, really happy. Next 2, really good line, just not quite getting the strength. And that's okay, because then you can look at it and you might find there is a slight weakness. Is it your ability to read the green? Is it your ability to start the ball on the line? Or is it the pace? Today, it just seems, yeah, I'm not controlling the pace quite as good on that slight downhill putt. So I would just practice that a little bit more. The first drill was good, less time. That one I'd spend a little bit more. Now what we're going to do is going to create a left to right putt, which for me is my weaker putt. And I would probably spend more time on that as I go through it. So let's look at our third drill and what we're going to do. And then that incorporates really all the ideas that we've got through our putts. So here's my third drill. And now we're looking at a left to right putt. And just to do the opposite, we're doing a slightly uphill putt. And for me as a right-handed golfer, I find the left to right is just a little bit trickier. For some reason, it's as if my mind pushes a little bit towards the hole rather than trust the line. So that's why it's important, again, if you start to do that, you aim correctly and then push off the line, again, you're probably going to get a poor contact on the putts. So I always tend to find my speed is a lot better on a straight putt, right to left, and then not quite so good on a left to right. So it's an easy thing to do. You just practice it a little bit more. Now, we've deliberately put the camera the opposite side of the hole. And the reason I've done this, just again for my green reading, I was putting from 2 o'clock down the hill, and we read approximately around about 6 paces, about 18 inches of break. We're now going from the opposite side. Now, it's still 6 paces, it's still a 3% slope, but because I'm now coming more from 8 o'clock, this is going to break about 75%. So what's important to understand, when you're putting downhill on a similar line, it will always break more than the corresponding putt going up the hill. Only time it's the same is if you're putting from 6, no break, 12 o'clock, no break. But as soon as you start going 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, they will always break more than the corresponding putt the other side, 8 and 7. So this is going to break about 3/4, so about 12 inches now. We had 18, sorry, so we're looking 3/4 of that. We're looking around about 13.5 inches. So we're going to go just over 3 hole widths outside. So we've changed that line. But the process doesn't change. This is the good thing. Okay. So I'm just focusing on that line, picking that tee peg as my line. And if I've read the putt correctly, we've seen it, every ball has gone towards that tee peg. It's now just about me trusting that line and committing to it. Okay, so really happy with that. Felt like I started on the right line. Again, what we might feel, none of us are perfect. Okay, balls ended up directly behind the hole, is then I would look at that and think maybe I just need to be slightly inside the tee peg, okay? And if I'm practicing really hard on it, I may go up and move the tee peg. On this occasion, just for speed, we'll just say we'll trust that line again. Ball rolling nicely. We can see there, yeah. So you can see going up that hill, it's definitely breaking a lot less than when I was coming down the hill, okay? So on this occasion, I'm not going to move the peg, but I will bring it in slightly. I haven't got that focus point, so if I can find something else on the green to focus on. Get the ball. And you can see there's my weak putt. So because I didn't have that focus point, look how I didn't make a good stroke. So what I would do now is bring that tee peg in just an inch or two, go back, do it again, okay? And as I said, this is my weak area. I will probably spend, if you took 100% of my time, I'd spend 10% on the straight putt, 25% there, and probably nearly 2/3, 70% of my time doing these putts, because I want to make sure if I get them, I can give them my best effort. There, had that line to focus on, just needed a tiny bit more. So there are drills. That's what I do to work on those 3 things. Read the putt, get the right line, get the right pace. And we're going to look at one final thing before we finish, and that's really just understanding your putting when you're on the golf course. So we're going to look at 3 key stats here. Number 1, what is your 50-50 putt? What we mean by that is on average, when you're going to hole half or maybe miss half. And for most amateur golfers, that's around about 5 feet. Then we're going to look at what I call your 2 putt. 2 putt is around about 20 feet for most amateur golfers. If you're a little bit higher handicap, it might be 15 feet. If you're a low single figures, you might be nearer 25. But around about 8 paces, so about 20 feet away. Now those 2 putts are really important. I go and practice them a lot on the putting green. See if you can get at least half of those 5-footers in. If you're doing better than that, you are playing really well. I mean, a tour player holds from about 8 feet as his 50-50 putt. So that's a sort of an important understanding. That's a good stat. Remember, you're watching the winners every week on tour. So it's very, very easy just to think, well, they're doing it perfect every time. Okay, but they're probably holding 50% from 10 feet. And that's why they're winning that week. So when you're on the green, if you've got a 5-foot putt and you're playing around and you hole half of them, you're doing everything you should need to do. If you're 20 feet away and you're averaging 2 putt, you're doing fine. Now here's the important thing, because proximity to hole, majority of us end up, when we're not chipping onto the green, further than 20 feet from the hole. So every 10 feet you're moving further away from the hole, the chances are you're going to increase the chance of 3 putting by about 10-15%. So by the time you get to 50-foot putt, you're going to 3 putt that depending on your level, somewhere between a third of the time and half the time. So don't beat yourself up if that happens. Realise that can happen. If you've got two 50-footers and you 2-putt one and 3-putt the other, you're doing fine as an amateur golfer. So what we've shown you today is really some ideas of how you're going to be successful when you get on the putting green. And what we're looking for is 3 things: the read of the green, the line you're starting on, and then the speed. If you can generate those 3 things, you're winning. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. It's going through your putting. If you have, please subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you soon.